Hello everyone and welcome to the second portion of the week 4 analysis. It's day number 2 now. It's it was a crazy week. I'm gonna tell you. It was a crazy week, and the shenanigans only continued coming into day 2. If you haven't watched day 1 already of week 4, go back and watch that. It was a great 5 games. And now, of course, if you are here, feel free to stick around, whether you're watching on Twitch or on YouTube, whatever. You feel free to enjoy it. You can skip on through it all that you want if you're watching on YouTube, of course. If you only want to watch a set specific type or amount of games. But we're going to do them from start to finish. So let's get started. I'm Toby, of course, in case you didn't know. But I assume you kind of did know at this point. Game number 6, or game number 1 of day 2. Number 6 overall of the weekly finals of PGIs. Coming your way with a north side plane, a pretty heavy northern one, this one. And there are quite a few teams that prioritize looting towards the south. The good thing about this is that towards the west, we have this lovely road. Let me draw it in another color so it's easier to see. We have this road here. We have this road here. We have this road here. That road there. This road here. South. And south. So even though you're landing towards the north, there are actually some pretty decent like vertical passages that if you, let's say, a freak of freaks desperately wanted to loot Porto Paraíso, even with this plane path, you can still fly down here, get cars, and go down south. It's pretty, for north plains, it's still pretty doable for teams to go towards the south. I mean, of course, it's still far to go, but it is pretty doable, actually. So let's see. Teams gonna up to try and fly down in this direction if they want to. Circle pups, and let's see. From day 1 to day 2, has anything changed? Are anyone in different areas of the map than where we saw them come day 1? Looking around. Looking at chat to see any responses. But the answer is no, not really. It's pretty much the same as what we saw in the Miramar games. There's really been no reason to change it. We haven't had those absurd plane paths. While it's still a south plane path, we haven't seen anything completely out of the ordinary. So no reason to worry. Circle's going to send up an Hacienda and should be pretty straightforward to rotate into for the majority of teams. T1 try and split themselves in a 2-2 split. Zenith doing a 3-way split up towards the north side. Meta doing a wide 2-1-1 split in the center, and we'll see if any of them are going to get punished for trying to maintain as much control as they are. The 2-1-1 split for Meta has now become a 2-2 split. They realized, you know what, maybe it's a bit too much to try and get all of this. We'll just back off and play together. As long as we still have like clear paths in between here, we should be able to rotate back and forth as we see fit. Everyone else trying to make their way slowly inside the circle. Navi gets Senya knocked in the middle of nowhere. Unfortunate for him, he goes down. Couldn't find a way to stay put in that circle. Blue comes all the way, closing in. Day trade the final team to make their way into the circle. They are finally here. Everyone's around. We've lost one player. New circle's gonna pop. And we get a south hard shift. And this one is tough. This one is incredibly tough. And I said it during the game as well. It's just, you know, when you start the day off with a south hard shift like this, it's just brutal. Because we have Ents up here. We have infantry up here. We have Petrichor. We have Oath. We have Navi. Well, they're still inside the circle, but they've already lost a player. Day trade down towards the south. We talked about, if you didn't already watch it, go back and watch the first day of this. We did a little talk about hard shifts and how teams tend to want to try and shift to the soft edge, or the edge of the circle that it's shifted towards. Because you can see here, if you cut the circle in half because of the hard shift, we really only have one player down here. That's clip, right? Everything else here is completely free for everyone to go take. And of course, people know this. If you're sitting up here in your Oath, you're going, oh, I'm sure there's a lot of space to play around down on the south side of the circle. And there is, because the circle hard shifted. So for teams, they could try and see if they can wrap in. The only issue with this hard shift is that you won't have any info. Because we are on the map where we are, in order to try and utilize this hard shift, you have to make your way up this hill. We've talked about this specific stretch of land a billion times before, and I'll gladly talk about it again. I call it like the power grid plateau up here. It's so high up compared to the roads below that when you come up here, it just takes a long time to traverse. Up this way, down this way, towards the south. It's very time consuming. So if your ends all the way over here, if your like infantry over here ends here, I should say, it's very time consuming to try and make this rotation all the way down towards the south. Even more so if you have to drive further all the way down over Picado, because you can't really drive up here. I mean, you can, but it's going to take you a very long time because it's very hilly and very steep. And if you're driving in a Bronco or minivan or whatever, it's going to take you too long to make that rotation. So let's see now how many teams opt to try and do it anyway. Frigate Freaks go down in this direction, but they see day trades. They go, nope, let's not do that. Other teams realize as well, we can't really do it. And it's not only so much because they can't do it, but it's also because they know circle settings. And of course they do. They're pro players. The circles shift away from what we call unplayable terrain. And I've gone over this a billion times before, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But there are certain areas of the map that function essentially like water. These type rocks that we see here. The circles shift away from them in phase 4. The ones that look like small clouds, essentially. The type of rocks that look like small clouds, the circles shift away from. Or try to anyway, if possible, in phase 4. These ones over here. The circles try to shift away from it. So because the game knows this, or because the players know this, they go, okay, so in case, I mean, because this is phase 2, right? So once we see phase 3, if it has to shift away from the majority of this in phase 4, up here, there's a lot of terrain we can still include with none of the unplayable stuff. Pretty much this entire portion of it is still playable. So even if phase 3 goes kind of down here, there's a very big chance that it's still going to shift out to the east again. It would only go down here if the next circle is yet another southwest hard shift. Which, I mean, it could happen, but it's very unlikely. And also, that alongside with this whole area, you can't really use it for a whole lot. You can sit down in the bowl here, but you can't scout anything from there. This is a big open hill, like down in this direction. And if there's anyone over here, they have eyes on you, and you can't really do a lot from that position. So even though this is the quote-unquote quiet side of the circle, there's just not a lot to grab down there. The only benefit of it is that you have high ground. Yes, you might be exposed, but you have a little bit of high ground, and you avoid having to go into the city. If you can make the wrap around and the circle goes towards the west, you avoided having to drive through the city to go there, right? So those are really the only benefits of making your way down in that direction. So teams not as eager, I guess you can say, to try and make their way down there as we see in other hard shifts, where you just see all the teams kind of try and all the teams try and do these wide wraps around to the south. This time around, teams aren't so eager to do so for two reasons. A, there's not really that much to come for, and B, as I said before, with all the unplayable terrain in this area, there's still a very big chance that the circle is to some extent going to shift back up towards the north, or the northeast more specifically. So a lot of teams up to try and stick around up here. New circle shifts here. Phase 3 has come in the middle, and now is when it gets obvious, right? Because unplayable. Oh, I should call it shifting away from. Shifting away from. Shifting away from. Shifting away from. If all these areas are gonna get shifted away from in the next circle, where can we go? There's really only one place we can go, right? If these areas here are not going to be included in the next circle because of the way the circle mechanics function on Miramar, we have to be somewhere up here. And of course, this is a much bigger territory than what this circle is, because this is phase 4. But you can see there's only so many places this circle can be that doesn't include what we've just drawn. It has to go up here somewhere. Let's see if it will. All the teams are coming in, ends going up towards the plateau. They want to find a place to play safe. DA send it out to the east side of the city. Tianba and Zenith, they go for a brawl of a fight up here. In the meantime, Akkad and Hansia trying to shoot up in third party towards them. Gen G coming in late, trying to find a place to go. They have Loki over the top. He's looking down towards Oath and Navi while they're fighting. The remaining Gen G players coming in, trying to look the other direction. And as we said, here and down here, it's going to get shifted away from the circle. Goes to the only place we thought it could. And then people, I'm kind of curious. Viewers in chat, there's 83 of you, at least according to my Twitch stats. 83 of you in the chat. How do you, and also if you're watching on YouTube, please let me know in the comments. How do you like this? Do you think it's a good thing? And I don't have much of an opinion. I mean, I do, but I'm not so curious to share my thought. I just want to hear your thoughts. What do you think of the way that it works on Miramar? Do you think the circles should just ignore these mountains and it should always be able to go everywhere? I mean, water is one thing. Actual ocean, you know, actual ocean is one thing. But do you think the circle should easily be able to just hard shift down towards the south and go up into this mountain? Or hard shift up to this mountain that is very difficult to get on top of? Or be able to go straight up on top of this mountain thing? Should that be the case? Or do you like the way that it works now, where the circles are predictable? Sadia thinks it's good. It reduces RNG, which is nice. It's important to have playable ground, but you can use rocks to find cover. I think that anything unplayable should get shifted out. It's great. Okay, overall, people seem to like it. City circle wasn't possible. Well, if we go like this, and we draw up the... Let's draw up the unplayable areas again. I'll just draw up a couple of them, because we don't need to do all of it. If we take a phase 4 circle, because this is phase 3 closing in, right? If we take a phase 4 circle and put it up here, as you can see, if the circle was to be the furthest inside San Martin, but not touch the areas, if we just draw all of them, the furthest into the city we could go would be something like that. But this circle, again, to really quickly try and say something that we've talked about a lot of times before, this circle, the odds of this circle being generated is incredibly small because, as we've said, the game generates 30 circles, right? And then it picks one of them that fits the rule set. And what are the chances that of all these, like the billion, probably not billion, but the many different circles that could have been created, what are the chances that it's generated this specific one? You know? Pretty unlikely. Why is the green area unplayable? Good question. It's because it's considered, I think it's something with the hills that you can't run up. Centix, if you have the actual definition of why it's unplayable, please feel free to tell me. I think it's because the hillside is too steep for you to be able to run up it, and if you stand on it, you slide down. Therefore, oops, sorry. Therefore, it's considered an area you cannot stay on. Does that make sense? I'm pretty sure that's... James is on the hill. He's above the hill. This is the stuff. And you can jump on it. You can jump on it. I mean, it also has plateaus on top. But the hill itself, like the side of it... So the thing is, even the side of this is unplayable. Yes, you might say that this is playable, but then the other side is also unplayable. And then obviously the circle cannot include this. The circle can obviously not include this without also including that. And therefore this doesn't matter. You know? Does that make sense? And it's not always true that it's areas that you cannot physically stand on. It's just, we just call it unplayable because the because it's not that it's unplayable as in there's no way of getting up there. It's just that the game considers it water, therefore we call it unplayable. It is actually, it is possible to get up there. We just call it unplayable because it's an easier definition to to determine the distance. Does that make sense to all of you? I hope it did. Either way, the circle does shift pretty much exactly where we expect it to. And now let's see. Where do we go from here? Meta, they have managed to group up. I like how they split early. They sat like this, then they realized let's 2-2 split it, then they realized, you know what, let's just all go here instead. Smart place from Meta. Multi-circle gaming, similar story. They split out early. They then come over and take full control of this. No reason for them not to. They sit tight. In the meantime, now the circle shifting towards the east, we see Liquid. They push down when Zenith and Tianba fight. They send 3 down. They keep James up on the hill to scout further forward. I don't think Liquid has any plans of full speed crossing over and engaging on it. But they now have 3 below. They keep James up above. He's gonna come down and help get his vehicle and push back down to try and see if he can reunite with his teammates. But now Gen G comes in the mix, and that's where it kind of makes it tricky for James, because he could try and leave, but there's a team next to them, and you never know how close they're gonna be. Loki, in the meantime, looking over the top, knows that Na'Vi and Oath are fighting in the compound, and that's an option for Gen G, right? So the circle pops towards the east, and Gen G now, in a very similar fashion to what we normally see them do, Gen G has a 2-1-1 split. PO is looking for info, Loki is looking for info, and Onyx Nesta, they just heard that James left, so they can go up and try and scout from here. But where the hell do you go? You can't use this territory for anything. You can try and send it in towards the middle. Driving in this field up here is most likely gonna get you killed. Like, what is the approach from the west side of this circle? Next circle can go anywhere again. We can hard shift straight back into the city. But you don't have anything down here you want to play. You know there's a fight going on here. You know there's a fight going on up here. You don't want to drive through this field. You know the compound's taken. You cannot play the hill. You could go into a city, but everyone knows that cities are yikes. You can kind of see how Gen G don't have a whole lot of options on this side of the circle, right? If they want a third party, in phase 4, they could either go up and take the fight to Na'Vi and Oath. Loki is up here. They know that they're there. Or they see Liquid push down on this. They could go up here. They could take over James' position from before and see if they could third party down into this. Those are their 2 third party options. But Gen G, as much as they are good at fighting, they're not a team that usually likes to fight early on. And instead, they go, so everything, apparently, from here all the way up to here is complete garbage. What's the alternative? Is there anything we can do to make our way into the circle? And exactly Uhir. Uhir is saying the smart thing here. As you can see, this compound is not even inside the circle. So even if you do get down in third party, you still stand up here, and then you look in this direction and go, well, that compound's taken, where do we go now? And you've maybe even lost a player or two trying to third party that, right? At least if you're third party down here and you lose a player, you at least you get to stay inside the circle for now. So what's the option? If all this is shit, all the way under. You look at this circle, it's shifted north. So you go, what are the chances that there should still be players down here? The circle is shifted north enough that these guys, if there are anyone playing the south side, should currently be wrapping up and trying to play here. If they are wrapping up, maybe they're fighting, maybe they're not, but hopefully they'll be busy doing something else that we should be allowed to get a pretty clear passage down on this side. That's not a bad play. I like the idea. He goes up. Pio and Loki go, well, let's get going. They wrap south together. They have to tank a bit of blue. It's phase 4 blue. It's not the worst. You can survive it. They wrap underneath. But then I got surprised because they wrap underneath. One gets knocked. They get the rest. That kind of slows them down. They do get back in their vehicles, but then they stop here. And I thought they had a chance to push further in. It is a tricky situation, though. I actually didn't even notice that they got a player knocked down there earlier. I was just thinking that they had a chance to They go in and then they just prone down below the buildings. And that's just not the confident Gen G that I've seen. But the thing is, what could they have done as an alternative, right? Let's go here. Now they get the reses up. They know there are players here. They've heard DA shoot here. They know there's a team in the compound. What's the alternative? Is there an alternative? Is there an alternative? An explicit thank you so much for the host. Much appreciated. Is there an alternative for Gen G? They end up going and kind of proning it out down below DA's compound. Is there anywhere else that they could have gone that would have gotten them into a better position? Push DA? That would be you taking a straight on 4v4 fight into a compound that you can't see, with the risk of getting third-partied by the entire city. That's pretty suicidal. You'd have to think there was something better they could have done before that. All the shacks are free? Sure. Then the question becomes, what's better? Having 4 players inside a shack or have 4 players prone in a dip? What is better, dip or shack? At least in the dip, you're in the open. You can kind of move around, you know. In the shack, if you have to sit inside, close the door, 1 nade and you're boom. Fight Pero? That's also an option. Fight Petrichor Road out towards the east. They see the knock in the kill feed. The thing is, they just got here. They just got down here. I'm not sure exactly how Esta ends up getting knocked in this situation. Whether it's a nade or if it's him falling off the vehicle or what it was. But it's... I'm not sure they have the info that it's Petrichor who are right next door. I'm not sure they know of that. So it's a tricky one. When I saw them commit to this, I was thinking, you know what, that's not the smart play. They should have done something else. But looking at it now, I'm not sure what else they could have done. They get the res up. It's phase 4 blue, remember. If you get knocked in the blue, you're dead. They cannot just sit out here and make up their mind. They have to do something actively. They have to make a push somewhere. The shacks west of meta, that is an open suicide shack. And yes, I know what you mean. Okay, so these guys can't get a proper angle, but the entire city can see you up there. The entire city can see you. And then you can go, what is worse? Like, if you have to prone down anyway, you might as well prone down in the center of the circle, right? You might as well prone down in the center. But look at this. They get the res. They get back on their vehicles. They get going. New circle pops. And all of a sudden, meta shack ain't that much. I mean, there's still more center. But at least down here, as I said before, they're in the open. They can try and play around it if a fight happens here. If DA gets pushed by Daytrade, by Sonics, by anyone, they might be able to third party it. But this shack is very open. It's not open to the compound, but it's very open to what's down here. It's just interesting. It's pretty fun to see how in the heat of the moment, and that's where... I guess that's the closest I will get to being, or we will, as viewers, get to being players, right? Because when I was casting the game, I didn't say it, I think anyway, but I was surprised to see Gen G just prone it down there and was like, there's got to be something better that they could have come up with. But if we can't find it, being able to sit and pause the game, how the fuck do we expect them to be able to find it in the middle of the game when players are getting knocked, there are shots all over the place, they're trying to play comms, like they're trying to communicate with each other. There's so much going on in these games. They're playing for a freaking $150,000 plus crowdfunding. That is probably some of the best things they could do. Exactly. I just remember seeing it during the game and I was confused by them opting to go for it. But the benefit to this dip is A, it's inside the circle. B, they're outside the city enough that they won't be part of the I guess the onslaught that's gonna unfold in here. And C, if they decide to or dare to, they have a chance to maybe third party into something. Daytrade wraps around on the side. And now you can ask a new question, which is, they push in, they take the fight on the edge here, Petrichor comes around, they get the instant kills on them. Why does Gen G not third party that? And I think that's just Absurdly unfortunate timing. Had Petrichor not come down here, because you can see both Pew and Loki, they're looking for Ixlift and Mill, right? This fight in here escalates right as Petrichor pushes forward. That is not a word. Forwards. They end up going down. They go down at 22:09. When are day trade eliminated? At 22:24. So that's what? 15 seconds later. There's just not enough time to get healed up, to get the communication across, to get ready, to get the nades out, to get reloaded. There's just not enough time. You have 15 seconds, so third party. And you've just finished fighting over here yourself. It's just not enough time. Not enough time. It's unnecessary for them now to push inside, and even more so with this new circle popping. Just not a whole lot they can do with it. But I like what they did. Just to go back to it, I like what they did with this play. Sitting up here, splitting it this way, trying to scout forward, very Gen G-esque to take control on the very edge, and then reading that there was simply nothing for them to take here. They play very smart, and that's why it's so crazy when we then look at the games and we go, okay, but if they're such a smart team, how did they perform? Let's go back and see. Okay, week 4 finals, let's see, scroll down all the way. Okay, they got second to last. They got 15th. When a team that's this smart, because Gen G is an incredibly smart team, that's what's wild to me. When a team that is this smart finish second to last, it's just, I mean, it's wild how good these teams are. And I think that's something many people sometimes underestimate. When a team that is this good at reacting, at taking fights, at rotating and stuff like that, when a team that is this good can, I don't want to say play this poorly, because as we're seeing right now, they're making all the right decisions. They're doing the right, they're doing the right things. They're just not coming out on top. It just goes to show how incredibly difficult this tournament is, and how much pressure there is on all these players to. I mean, there is no room for mistakes. There really isn't. There really is no room to make errors in a tournament like this. They had trouble with every fight they got third partied all the time. That was a big portion of it. And they lost players in situations where they shouldn't have in the earlier parts of the game. And then they also just had, I mean, like this. They had a lot of circles go really, really much against them. I like this play from a Freak of Freaks. I like what they're doing. They push out. They've been sitting down here and looking up this way the entire time. And now they realize, great, we finished off the last team. The last Tiamba player was ours to take down. Let's push out now. Let's take control. The only issue is they never get out of the ball. And while this happens, they never capitalize. So this comes to an end. Sonic's and Ends fighting comes to an end. And at first I thought a Freak of Freaks are going to push back and try and third party to wipe this entire side of the circle. But they don't. With multi-circle gaming over the top here and Liquid, they opt to push the other direction, which in theory is smart. But they're just never ready for that. Like, I don't think they're ever ready for this fight to end as fast as it does. Because they push up and all of a sudden they find themselves in the middle of the whole thing. They find themselves in between everyone and they end up getting in trouble. Getting in trouble because of it. So DA try to get out of the city. Mithralius is on his own. Down he goes. Sonic's now 3 left alive. Multi-circle gaming. They push up over the hill. I like how they play as well. Again, very proactive. They know that at some point soon, they already have them up here now. This is very similar. This is a very similar situation. If you watch the first day, the final game, game number 5 of day 1 of the week 4 finals. If you watch the analysis, we broke down how Tiamba on Erangel, they knew what is the one position that can really punish this compound. It's the hill. So what is the best way to make sure that no one is playing that hill? Is if we take control of it ourselves. So they know that Tiamba and Liquid are fighting. Multi-circle gaming, once they escalate again, they push up and take control. Now, the one position that can really hurt this compound is under their control. They're playing a 2-2 split, smart playing on their part. They run back down when the new circle pops. Then once this escalates again, they run back up, take control once more. I like how proactive they are, constantly back and forth, trying to maintain control. They don't want to sit up here all the time, but they come up here just to, like, plant a flag and say, we're here, watch out. so that people are hesitant to move up here at any other point in the game. Really, really, really smart playing by Multi-Circle Gaming. Now they realize, great, compound is out, let's just full stack on the hill. Tank tries to play it safe from behind, make sure that their team is alright to peek, because as long as they play the inside, like this side of the hill, Meta has eyes on them. But as long as Tank is containing Meta, they can't check that way, so their angle gets cut off. So Tank right now is trying, by actively taking control of Meta, he is preventing them from seeing this way, and thus allowing his teammates to take the fight up here. Pretty smart playing. Pretty smart playing. Now Meta did full commit, and it's like, okay, you know what, guys? I did all I could. I held them up for so long, but they really want this compound. Now we have to back off. We have to take this fight. And this, I think, was a mistake from Multi-Circle Gaming. So they crash in. They got 3 knocks. They wiped players from a Freak of Freaks. Tank is now separated because he can't get back in time. And Multi-Circle Gaming backs down towards the compound. But look at the circle. The blue is closing it. And Multi-Circle Gaming goes, let's go down and get control of this. I think that's a mistake. I understand that they want to save Tank. But Tank had a way to move back here, vault into the building, vault out on the other side, and potentially run up here. Maybe he will die trying to cross. Could happen. But you still have 2 players up here, and look at what you have to play around. I think it would have been a better play to make the run down this way. Have Tank try and make his way out here on his own. Maybe if you clear this in time, apply suppressive fire down towards the meta guys that could allow for him to cross behind. But instead of wrapping back down and then play inside the blue, wrap up here, kill EB, which, I mean, you know there's still Liquid player there. Go up, kill him, and then play contain and meta from the hillside. They opt to go inside instead. That allows for Sonics to wrap out and take full control of the hill, because all of a sudden, I mean, what can EB do as a solo, right? He can't, I mean, he could try and go up and take the fight to Sonics on his own, but there's no reason to. Might as well grind the placement points when you're still alive here. And instead, Multi-Circle Gaming ends up forcing themselves into a fight on the edge of the circle, where they could just have been up here had they killed EB. They could have been staying up here. They could have held down Sonics, forced them to maybe go and play this side. Like, if everything went the way that Multi-Circle Gaming would probably have wanted, they had been up here with 3, they'd obviously killed EB, up here with 3, their presence had forced Sonics over on this side of the circle, and then Meta would have been forced to take the fight down here. They take a fight, they get to third party, they win the game. That would have been the perfect scenario, but they opted to wrap back in the compound. Now they're forced to take a fight in the blue. That allows for Sonics to take full control. They hold them out, and then can take the fight to EB in the end game. And let's see if that's what happens. The fight, all the way through, comes to an end. Ragnar actually ends up wiping out all of them. Sonics full control versus solos. EB gets 1, goes down. Exactly as expected. Probably not actually exactly, because I was expecting Multi-Circle Gaming to kill Ragnar when he was a solo 1v3, but they end up dying to him. So a bit of an error, in my opinion. I would love to hear people's thoughts. When you have a chance to sit on the hill, force a team in another. I mean, you never know if you could have forced Sonics off. Maybe they would have wanted to take the fight to you, but that would have happened on this side of the circle, and then you would have a team of meta who would have been the third team, right? Rather take a 3v3 with circle control than a 3v3 on the edge of the circle, especially if you have a chance to do that. Exactly. They thought they could go back and clear out meta alongside with getting Tank into the circle, which then never worked out for them. But yeah, small mistakes made, which ends up costing them a potential win in that game. That was game number 6. Let's hop over to game number 7. There we go. Final Miramar game of the weekly finals coming your way. Playing straight north to south. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, not too much to say. Everyone can go exactly where they want. Do we have anything out of the ordinary? No, not really. Not really. Everything is pretty much straightforward. Liquid are up towards the north. I mean, with this plane path, it's a... sure, you can fly towards Monte, but why bother? Why bother trying to fly all the way over there? You can just jump out early and get yourself looted up. I'm just gonna close the window. Why bother when you can just chill up on the north of the circle? In the meantime, let's see. Circle down towards the south. And once again, day trade, they instantly get memories of what happened yesterday. They sat in here and they lost the game to Mill, the solo, and DA across the street. DA, in the meantime, getting themselves looted up. They are currently splitting, trying to see what's available. They have Mert all the way down towards the south, getting himself looted up. So plenty of space. They've taken away vehicle for day trade. Mert goes down. Towards the south gets looted up. Tianba on the south side as well. Oath, T1. Everything is pretty straightforward. Very much out of the ordinary. We don't have anyone looting out of Monte, so we won't have any early presence come this way. Other than Multi-Circle Gaming, of course. We'll see how that's going to impact things. Multi-Circle Gaming's Lingdu does make his way down here early. Makes perfect sense. They know that there's no one Monte, so might as well use that to wrap down faster. A lot of teams were trying to extend there, and similar to what we said on day one, there's a big area down here that's not going to be used for a whole lot, but for right now, when it's still phase 1, it's not really the biggest deal. It's a pretty big area, but there's still plenty of areas to play around. You don't push out of the circle for a fight if you can't regain that control. That's a pretty smart play, Golden. Or at least they could have sent one of the two down and try and still isolate and just have that guy help bring up the other guys, right? Out in the west, the only thing that really happens early game here is that Navi and Gen G had a bit of a police chase going on. Other than that, it was pretty straightforward phase 1 this game. Everyone's rotating down pretty safely. Akkad does manage to get knocked. There was a sick, like really sick double headshot from Mithralius. But of course, they're far away. So easy peasy rest comes in. Circle then goes out towards the east. And when you look at where teams are, again, center of the previous circle and all that stuff, there's quite a few teams to the west. We have 5 teams out west. And the thing is, normally you'd say just shift to the backside of the circle for ultimate free space, right? We've said that quite a lot already. That's easier said than done. Mainly because A, water, and B, the east, there isn't really that much to claim that you can play from. And also, one of the few areas in this map, we have these mountains. And you can't really see it, but they're unplayables. And it actually took me surprisingly long to learn that. I knew about this. I knew about this. I knew about these. I knew about this. I knew about that one. And all this stuff. But these here too are the ones that you shipped away from in phase 4. So even though you can hard shift out towards that side of the circle, you'd still have to make your way in, most likely anyway, at some point during the game. Circle goes east, Tianba, or T1 as you said. Yep, they're not going to be complaining about that at all. It is sometimes the buffet is so big that you take so long to try and figure out what you want to do with it that by the time you've made up your mind, everything is gone. But T1 full on committed. They sit in a 2-1-1 split, then they go back to a 2-2 split, and then they try and maintain control there. Is this the best position they could have gotten off of this? It's a pretty good one either way. So probably going to be pretty well satisfied with that. Again, not too much happens. Only one player is dead so far. Everyone has a chance to make their way in. Pio goes up on the hilltop, tries to scout further forward. Can't really see anything. The teammates are out to wrap underneath. Anonix comes back again. Hilltop control for Gen G. Pio doesn't mind tanking blue for a little while. Circle goes back towards the northwest. And now is where shit goes sideways. Because now, the area that we drew up just before, all of a sudden, that it's a pretty big area, but it's not a big deal because the circle is still pretty big. It's even bigger. All of a sudden, that is a solid 4th, maybe a 5th of the circle. And this is just me repeating myself, but because this and this and this and to some extent the compound is still in, you can't do jack shit with anything down here. If you're trying to take a position, which we see a team try to do in just a moment, while you might be safe and hidden from one of these positions, if you call them 1, 2, 3, and 4, while you might be safe from one of them, 5 actually, the other ones will most likely be able to spot you. So everyone has to make their way in from the southeast, obviously with a northwest shift. Or just west. West-northwest shift anyway. All these teams will have to try and make their way in, but into where? You can't really scout your way in this direction because this mountain is pretty big. And because this mountain is as big as it is, you have no vision. You have no idea of knowing what's happening inside the circle. There's just a big wall blocking your view. If you're sitting up here, maybe you can try and scout forward. You can maybe see this, you can maybe see that, but you can't really see anything further into the circle than just that. Let's see how the teams play. Some full speed send it, some try and play it safe. T1, they go sender. Liquid do the same thing. A little bit of a dip there, a little bit of a dip there. They will sit on each their side and try and play it as very safe as they possibly can. Zenith, they take the compound above. They can sit tight for now. Down towards the south, we have infantry, Genji, Tianba, all saying, you know what, if we can at least just have the next circle. This was not a good circle, but if we can at least just have the next one go south, we might be fine. Nope, not gonna happen. We go up to the north again, and now even more so than before. This area is utter garbage. For one and one reason alone, the hill is still in, and these guys, again, similar to what we said during day 1. If you haven't watched day 1 of week 4, I recommend you doing so. On Erangel, the Pachinki Hill that Sonics took control of, even though Na'Vi are technically outside of the next circle, the hill is technically outside the next circle, this compound is technically outside the next circle, they haven't rotated yet. So you can say, yes, you can play these dips. Yes, you can play all these positions down here. You can play this. Once not once the circle is shifted away, but you can play it once the team that is in that position is gone. And now, as we see, new circle pops, day trade goes, great, let's rotate. Okay, down here, we're safe from the ace position. Circle is going to shift away from all of this. We should be fine, right? Nope, because Na'Vi is still alive up here. 1 down, 2 down, all of a sudden, they're just proning on vehicles and can't do a whole lot from their position. The hills are still in, so day trade lose 2, arguably, because they rotate too early. But the thing is, had they waited longer, another team would just have taken the position away from them and they would have been in trouble either way. So it's just a very tough situation for day trade to find themselves in. Multi-circle gaming, Gen G, forced to take a fight on the south side. New circle pops and goes out towards the east and forcing even more players into the open. Overall, just an incredibly difficult win. Zenith try to hold off from their position. Everyone else are fighting hill, uphill. Like, it's just, you're trying to fight teams in the dips next to you while constantly getting shot at from the teams sitting above. It's a very, very tough one. Very tough one for all teams to play around. Circle is getting, not completely shifted out, but kind of. Sonic's getting shifted out, Na'Vi getting shifted out, and there's just not a whole lot you can do down here. Fortunately, the majority of the hill is getting shifted out as well, so you do lose some control. Infantry will go down. Na'Vi sends it forward. I like this play from Na'Vi. Senya does go down, but they take full control, at least for now. In the dip across here. Best of luck. Goes down. I believe he gets rest. I can't remember now. Yes. Nope, he doesn't. He goes down in the end of it there. DA still trying to play control in the compound again. I mean, if the circle goes your way, you might as well just sit tight. Try and see if you can get some damage done outside. Makes perfect sense. Meta, they look for a way to cross. They send Wicked over. I like the play. Isolate Orange and try and see if you can make your way over to the other side. And now at the same exact time, because Sonics, they've been down here as well. They never really fought each other all that much, but they're side by side. They hear them try and rotate forward. Sonics knows or realizes that Wicked is sent across, and they go, if Meta makes their way across before we get in, there's nothing we can do. Like, this position right here is the anchor point to controlling the northeast. If you have these, like if you have this under control, you can contain this. You can make sure that no one can sit on the other side of the road. And they realize, fuck, Wicked has made his way across. We need to have a response to this pretty much instantly. What do? They go over, they send Mime in, full speed forward, drive by on a buggy, and they take control of it. And now, because Meta's last 2 players are still on the other side, they can start playing contain. So smart execution, smart reaction play by Sonics to try and take full control of that situation. T1 and Liquid, they've been chilling in the dip for a while. They can continue to do so. I like this play that DA executes. So they know that T1 and Liquid are still throwing nades back and forth. At least they know that their focus is on each other. And while they're still inside the circle, they make the run out. The next circle could hard shift back here, but they know that we cannot get isolated. We cannot get pushed up against the wall inside this compound. If the next circle goes over here, T1 is just going to go down here and make sure that we never get out of this compound alive. So let's move now. Let's move while we know that T1 is looking the other way, and let's make a run up the hill. So Mert and Smash, they run on out, they try and take control, they get out, they get the first knock, and that allows for Code-Mago and Mithralius to leave as well. And now, full pincer play here. DA right now has control of 70% of the next circle. 1 goes up, 2 gets knocked. Bit overzealous on that one. I think they were just so committed to trying to find the flushes on these guys that they kind of forgot about the other guys. And now, I love this because T1 realizes, holy fuck, everyone is coming down this way. No one's running down this way. Sonics didn't up to do this. No one up to do that. And I think T1 realizes that all of DA has pushed out on the hill. And they go, fuck, we need to get out of here. We don't want to get third-partied. Zenith has made their way down here. DA has made their way up here. And T1 don't want to get pinned in the middle. So they go, let's just go back and take where they came from, you know? So they go, great, let's get the hell out of here. And they try to make their way back up towards the compound. Danche, unfortunately, gets knocked by Mime. But I like the idea of trying to avoid the third party to then go out and survive. Smash, fortunately, does manage to find them. The fight comes to the side. Kickstart just exactly crawls in. Now, again, DA, full control of the circle. 2v1v1. 1 goes down. Kickstart is allowed to get the res. Now it's a 3v1. It's a 3v2. And there are so many things that happened, and we can't really do it justice by analyzing it off of a map stream. But there's so many things that happen in this game. When you look at this, spoiler alert, Zenith wins the game. This should never happen. And DA knows that. This should never happen. DA just allowed them in. They allowed them in 3 times. First, they have to run. There's like a little ball here. Like if you imagine, they're standing up here. Beep, beep. They have to go down the hill and over here. Are DA players? Well, I guess it's more like down here. Are DA players? And instead of going up here and saying, you shall not pass, as they try to come over this way, they just sit down here and allow them to get over here. So now all of a sudden, they're like this. I don't know why he was standing like that. Now all of a sudden, they're close like that instead. It's just, and then Kickstart. Again, we can't really do it justice of analyzing it off of the map screen like this. Kickstart gets trapped behind a burning vehicle. Same situation. They have him cornered, blue, like back against the blue. Code-Mago has the flank. He has an angle on him. All he has to do is wait for Kickstart to try and run away from the bike, or from the car, and he allows him to do that because he backs off. There were so many things happening. Now the dot is behind DA. 1 down, 2 down, 3 down. We can give the credit to Zenith, as in they played that endgame well, but they should never have been allowed to make it that fight. And I just turned down the page. God damn it. They should never have been allowed to get to that point. It's because I have Shift W and Control. It's so confusing. These the shortcuts. Control W. It happens too often. That's just me turning off the window. It should never have happened. Really should never have happened. But go back and watch that game. It's an interesting end game of how to not play the very final moments in a match, and how to, unfortunately for DA, lose control of a game that was very winnable for them. And it would come to bite them in the butt pretty heavily. It would come to bite them in the butt in the end of the tournament. Kickstart is a very good player, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Again, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to take anything away from Zenith. Zenith played that as good as they possibly could have. They should just never been allowed to win. They should never have been allowed to win that game. Never ever. And I think they know that too. It was a good game from them, but they should never been allowed to win it. Let's hop on over to game number 8. Over to Erangel we go. Yes, he did get 10 kills that game. Again, Cakestart played it well. He's a phenomenal player. I've had the pleasure of meeting him a few times now. He's a very, very down-to-earth, super nice guy. And really good player, too. Always loved talking to him. Always loved hanging out with him when I had the chance to. Kentucky player. He's from Kentucky? Maybe he can give me some good bourbon. Either way. Let's hop back into it. We're back to Erangel. Back to Erangel. It's a plane on the southern side, and DA. I'm so worried now that I exited. Did I just log out again? At least this time I remember my username. Or do I? Okay. Either way, let's continue. Southern Plain. I don't know what's going on. Southern Plain. Game number 8. 3 games to go. All of them on Erangel. DA up to not make their way all the way up towards Rosok. Makes perfect sense. I mean, it's a pretty long stretch, and they know that there's now a team in between them, and it wouldn't maybe make sense to risk it, especially not when you know this is available. And with the Southern Plain path, it's there's always a good chance of a military game, so might as well. Oh, Fry, you need to send me some of the good stuff. Might as well get looted up on that south side. Now, the only issue is when you loot down here. At least we've learned that now. You have to respect this. When infantry's on the other side, you never know who's going to be bridge camping. You never know. I think for week 5 and 6, I think teams are going to hope that infantry qualify in the first 2 Miramar games. Just so they don't have to deal with them on Erangel. I think they might just hope that they qualify early, just so they don't have to deal with them. I mean, I guess then they have to deal with them in the finals. I don't know if that's any better. But yeah, it's just having a team that you just know they're always going to be a pain in the butt when you try and do something about that red bridge. They're, again, sitting up on the bridge. They're ready for it. They're waiting for it. And you can't even fault DA here. You cannot blame them at all. They were playing it so slow. They were playing it so careful. But they're just hard committed to being rude. I was going to say something else, but just being rude. They stop there, they scout there, they go up on the hill, they scout there. They do everything they possibly can to find out if there's another team over here. And and infantry just prones it out, hide behind, and feels bad, man. They go down to 2. A matter on why is it that Sonics get Chinky and Liquid not taking it? Because it's absolutely insanely stupid to try and fight for a city. When the loot is so good everywhere, and when we're seeing so many hard shifts all the time, it is pointless, in my opinion and in many others' opinions, to try and fight for a city. Yes, you're inside the center of the circle when you're in Pachinki, but you can just go everywhere else. But they always go there. So what? Go somewhere else. It's the whole thought and idea that I loot here. This is my spot. I think that's a dead thought. I think it's completely dead. You should go somewhere that you think is safe, and if it's not, then go somewhere else. There's no with the risk involved. It's pointless. There's always, the map is so big. That's, I mean, okay, this would have been a different story if we had 20 teams on the server. If it was 80 people, if it was 100 people on the server, it would have been a different story. Because there's only so many spots you can land and loot in, right? But when there's only 16 teams, and we have super settings, at least in terms of the loot, regardless of whether it's survival week or weekly finals, when we have super settings and there's only 16 teams, you can always, if you're good enough, if you've done your research, if you're sitting and like looking backwards in the plane when it's going across the map so you can see these guys jump there, you can like keep track of how many teams have jumped out, you can always find a place to loot where you aren't being contested. Always. Especially when you know where like 90% of the teams go. That's why. It's just pointless. There's no reason to risk it. That's my thought on that. And when teams then do risk it, I think it's stupid. When teams fight for Pachinki or fight for Rostock or fight for school, fight for Yasnaya, whatever it may be, I think it's stupid. Because there's always going to be room for you to loot and you can always rotate. That's my thought. Anyway, I know that some teams disagree, but that's my thought on it. Circle goes out towards the east. We've lost 3 players so far, 2 of them being from DA. Down on the south side early on. Circle goes up towards northeast, and this is where there was a bit of a tech issue. But at least we got back in the game. That was fortunate. Did I talk about it since both teams love the city? I don't think so. I think they kept fighting for it for a while, and then after a while, teams just, I mean, Liquid just stopped going there. I mean, they were fighting for the city, and then when they stopped going there, Sonics kept going there. It was just a battle of, not arrogance, but like, impatience is not the right word either. Stubbornness, I guess is the right word. The one team kept going there for longer than the other, and in the end, they backed off. Hello, Tixu. How are you doing? Counter question for people asking why Liquid not hot dropping Chinky. Is it worth hot dropping for a loot spot in survival? No kills matter. 2. Is it worth risk? It's about honor. Nope, it's about millions of dollars. Listen to Tixu. Tixu is a smart man. So Circle shifts back towards the east. As we've said, both today and yesterday and all the other days, with hard shifts, you have a circle, you have a side of the circle that's going to be somewhat empty. Teams will try and see if they can get to that side. Oath have done it a lot in this tournament in particular. Look at this. I mean, whenever, this is again me advocating or me promoting the map stream. When you look at Oath, that's something, because I will be the first to admit, coming into this tournament, my knowledge of NA teams, I do know NA teams. And I feel like my knowledge on the NA scene is pretty good, but the whole the micro things, this team likes to make this specific rotation type stuff, I did that's. I mean, I probably knew more about the Korean and Chinese teams than I did about the NA teams coming into this tournament. I'll be the first to admit that. But Oath, they do this a lot, where if you see a hard shift, they will be actively searching for that quiet side of the circle. They do it a lot. They've done it before, and now in this game they kind of try and do it again. The only thing is you don't want to drive through Pachinki. Obviously, it's don't want to have to go through cities early, but they do still try and go up and scout their way into what could potentially be free on this side. But now they see themselves beat by Afrika, so they go over the top instead. But just whenever you see a hard shift in one direction, and if Oath is still alive, see where they are. Like, go over to the map stream if the map isn't being shown on the main stream. Just like to practice. Okay, so this team likes to go here. It's just a fun thing to practice when you watch games. If look at the map, find out where Oath are and see if they're on that quiet side, or if they're not, then are they planning on going there? It can be pretty fun for as a viewing experience to try and keep track of different things like that. I sometimes like to, when I watch a game, I go, okay, so this game, not what I'm casting, obviously, but if I'm sitting and watching a tournament, whatever tournament it may be, I go, okay, so this game, I am a Petrichor, not fan, but or player, but you know, this game I follow Petrichor. I go, okay, so what do I know about Petrichor? What do I know about how they like to play? Okay, and then when stuff happens, let's say the new circle pops, I have to go like pretty much as they do it. I have to go, okay, so if I'm a Petrichor player right now, I would do this, and then I have to say, okay, so Petrichor rotates over here. Just random example. And then I have to see if it's correct. So it's like a fun little guessing challenge game for oneself to see if you understand the thought process or the priorities of a team. Because when you then start understanding more different teams and their mentalities and what they like to do, and you then see them play in the same tournaments, that's when you can start going, ooh, if this circle goes over here, and we know that Petrico likes going to this compound, and we know that the Multi-Circle Gaming also likes to sit out on this island, because obviously that's what they like to do, then maybe they will fight, and then 15 seconds later that happens, and you go, woo, now I know what they're doing. This was just a made-up example, but you know what I mean. It's pretty interesting when you start understanding the thought process of teams, and then you can then kind of see what's gonna happen before it happens. Sometimes, anyway. It's that's pretty entertaining. Let's see. Circle closing on in. Infantry trying to find their way over to the quiet side of the circle, wrapping all the way around school. Now we go up towards the ruins area. Pretty tricky area to play around, mainly because the I mean, you're in the open, but you can't really bring your vehicles all that well because, you know, hilly terrain. It's not easy to maneuver around down here with vehicles. I mean, some of it you can, but for the most part, you want to play on foot. Same thing in ruins in particular. Like ruins itself, it's pretty trashy to try and drive around vehicles in. So teams will try and find a way to get close enough to the center that they no longer have to use vehicles. And also, we know with this being phase 4 or phase 3, how many places can phase 4 go to if we take this in? Where can phase 4 go that doesn't include water? There are only so many options, right? There are only so many options. It has to go down here to some extent, if that is one of the circles that has been generated. So now let's see. Everyone wanting to go down here to some extent so they can find a spot in the circle. Gen G trying to find their way into it. They're now tracking behind other teams. Ens taking the fight. And I like what Ens did in this situation. Give me one moment. Correct. Someone was spamming the door phone. And my wife had a headset on, so So yeah, I liked what Ens did here. Again, we've talked about it earlier in this video, and I've talked about it in many analysis videos before. Certain compounds have areas around them. We talked about it during day 1, how this compound is fine. But if an opposing team sits up here, they have a really good vision on this compound, and you can't really do a whole lot from here without being shot at by these guys. That's why when you have this compound under control, like we saw Tian Badu in game 5 of week 4, they, as soon as they got control of this compound, also made sure that they had control up here, so they were splitting this. Same thing can be said down here from this compound, that liquid ion. If you're playing here, allowing for a team to sit below here can be pretty dangerous, because they'll be sitting right down here, they'll get angles on you, and it can just be tough to have to deal with a team sitting down here on the south side. So the difference between this compound though and what's up here is that this hillside is pretty easy to play. And while you're sitting up here, you can scout in this direction, you can look down towards the south, you can look up towards the north as well. There's many things you can do from here. Whereas to when you're sitting down here, while this position is dangerous for the team inside, this position itself is only really good to try and play up against this. If you're sitting here and there's a team on the south side, you're really exposed. There could be a team on the west side that can see you, then you're really exposed. The guys from in here could push out, then you're really exposed. So the only real benefit from being here is trying to either make a play on the compound or apply some pressure on the compound. And I like what Liquid does in response to what, in response to the Ens push, because Ens pushing down here, very smart play. And oftentimes the team inside the compound would just stay in there and be like, oh, god damn it, this is annoying now. There's a team outside, but we can't really do a whole lot about it. Because they'll just be peeking us, and if we get knocked outside, they can flush us, and they can just fall back down the hill again. But what James does is, instead of going down and playing the hill, which he really can't use for a whole lot other than making sure that this is free, is that he just runs out, lops some nades down, and tries to, in that way, force ends to go somewhere else. He says, guys, they're down here. James, EP, and Mexi comes out as well, lops some nades down. They try to apply pressure. He then spots one, gets the nade knock with one. Tixu falls down, I believe, to a nade immediately after. He takes down Rustenma, and then gets Tixu with the nade, and that way applies pressure on ends to, well, at this point, maybe either try and go away or do something else. So while Liquid aren't interested in playing this position themselves, they still want to make sure that no one else does, because that can be a frustrating spot to have a team in when you're trying to play this compound. And they realize that immediately. They commit to trying to clear out the team that is down here, to then fall back and play inside the compound. Very smart play by Liquid. I like it. Where other teams, as I said before, would maybe have just sat inside and be like, ugh, god damn it. They actually go out and do something about it. I think that's a very smart play. Circle goes down here. As I said, very much expected to go in this direction. Zenith push underneath, and this is just even better for Liquid. Now they know there's a team fighting. 3 of them come out, try and take control. EB does get knocked, but because the action commences the way that it does, they can fall back into safety. In the meantime, out towards the east, fights escalate as well. Ruins becomes hotter and hotter with the circle shifting away, and again, we can't really do justice to up-close battles off of a map stream, but T1 right now doing everything they can to make sure that no one is getting up here. That's the main task for them. Clear, like hold the line clear, and make sure that no one's coming up towards you. Because if any one team gets in and there's a close quarter battle, you can be damn sure that these guys are coming, and these guys are coming, and these guys might be pushing down in this direction too. Take over this spot in the circle. Meta, in the meantime, they try and grab underneath, try and take full control below. Petrichor holding their horses. There were knocks on this side, but they opt to not push out too early. Now, they do push forward. Ike's left gets knocked. Long gets him up. Tianba, full speed committed. Down the hill they go. One goes down. They get the flush on one, but they get the kills in return. And as a response to that, Sonics realized that Tianba's made the push over the top, down towards the bottom of the hill. They then go in response to take their position, to then wrap in after. Smart play by Sonics. They spot Len Shun. He doesn't have any clue they're there. Takes one down. They get the kill. Then they wrap back again. Again, run on over. Weaken one side, fall back, and then use that to your advantage later on in the game. Smart playing by them. Get a free kill, push back down. Again, there's only so much you can do because this compound, because it's so flat up here, it's like a pentagon kind of a plateau that you can't really utilize at all as long as the compound is still in play. And especially when there's 4 people in the compound, and I believe Mexi had an MK14 as well. That just doesn't really make it any easier, and a 15x. So, while all this is happening, there's not a whole lot you can do. And the issue for Liquid is that they know there's still Tianba players down here. Had they known for a fact that this site was completely clear, maybe there could have been an idea for Liquid to try and push out here already now, this early on in the game, and to take control. But because they know they have people on all their sides, maybe not up here, but other than that, there's people on all sides. Oh, he had a Grocer, that's right. Because they know there's people on multiple sides, they can't really push out the buildings yet. They have to just chill inside for now. Petrichor, try and stay strong. The fight up here comes to an end. And I like how Petrichor, they goes up, they play contain. They never really over-aggress in this direction. They just play contain. Mill on the backside is holding his side. And they just play contain. They sit up here, they wait for it, they sit tight. Mamu comes down, they swap spots. And I said this during the game too, and I still agree with what I said then, that Mamu's angle was bad. I know what he was trying to do. I liked what he was trying to do, but it wasn't the right play at the time. What you can't see here, but you can see if you go back and watch game number 8, is that they're playing a 3-1 split. Makes pretty good sense. Again, priorities. Hold this, play contain. If they come to you, you kill them. If they don't, great, you're forcing them to take the fight up here. Don't overextend, Petrichor. Keep 3 guys here on defense. hold off and make sure that no one can push down in this direction. That way, you get yourself a bigger buffer zone for the next circle to come. Smart play, pretty straightforward. Mamo, your task is one thing and one thing only. You are tasked with making sure that no one crosses this line. And if they do, you give the info to the rest of the team. They can then set back up down, and we can take him out. And that alone can be done in a multitude of ways. Mamo decides to do it in a way where he is prone on the hillside. This, for those of you guys who don't know, this is a very open hill that goes down this way. It's not super steep, but it's kind of steep. There are a few trees and rocks here and there, but not that much cover. There's some cover, but not a whole lot. Mamo decides to, instead of sit, because let's say there's 4 trees. I know a lot about PUBG, but I don't know the exact amount of trees that are right here. Let's say there are 4 trees here. And if you're a Tianba player coming back this way, what would be the first thing you would be looking at if you wrapped back this way? If you, like, you know, you can't be looking at everything at the same time. So if you're wrapping back this way, what are the first things you're clearing? The objectives, right? Or the objects, I should say, the trees, the hard cover. So the first things they do when they wrap back this way is they look at these trees to see, is there anyone playing on them? Is there anyone behind them? Is there anyone there? And what Mamo does is what we in, I guess, competitive esports or first-person shooters is try to play an off angle. So, and if you don't know off angles, then that's what it is. He's trying to play from a spot that wouldn't be the first thing a Tianba player would look for. Therefore, giving himself a chance to maybe fire a bullet before, like when he sees an opponent, he gets to fire a bullet at them before they have had a chance to see him. Because if he was sitting up on this tree, if he's sitting up here on the tree and the first thing they see when they come over to the tree is that direction, he doesn't have the element of surprise. They might get surprised that they notice him, but they will see him once he sees them. Instead, he's proning in the middle of the field, and it sounds weird, but he's proning in the middle of the field to be in a spot that they don't expect him to be in. And that makes good sense. The only issue is he doesn't have any backup at all. So if there's more than one player there, which there is, both Mingson and 200 are there, then he might get the knock on the first guy. But there's, you know, now I say there's no way. Of course, a guy can get a double spray down. But it's very likely that if the team that he's going up against is any good, that they will then trade the kill. Thus, he gets the knock on the first guy. The other guy then spots the guy shooting his teammate. They come down here. I don't have to draw it. I could just go further forward. But either way, they come down here. He's playing his off angle. He shoots the first guy. In response to his teammate being shot, he then shoots him. And these guys are still all the way up here. So while they get the knock and probably also the flush on this guy, they can then rest. And by the time these guys have come down here, it's now a 2v3 instead of a 2v4. So, issue is, there were trees here and here, and while I understand the off-angle play idea, had they been 2, had one been playing the usual spot, the main angle, the expected angle, he could have been the surprise player. So they come around, they spot the first guy, he backs off and goes, "Oh no, I'm gonna hide because I'm the only one here," and Mamo can come out of nowhere as a surprise motherfucker and kill both of them. That would have been a smart play. Then that off angle would have worked out perfectly. But because he's alone and he doesn't have that backup, I don't think it's the wise play to make. So what ends up happening, now that we talked about it for a while, is he prones down, they come around the side, as expected, they probably look at the trees as they come running on down, spot him, take him out. And there's nothing these guys can do in time. Mamo goes, they're coming, they're coming. Now he gets the call, now he gets knocked. They're still way too far away to do anything about it. At least initially. Had Mamo been playing the tree, he could have backed off, he could have tried done something else, and they could have come down, not losing a player. In the end, I do believe he actually does get rest, but still, he could have had a better impact as that off-angle contain player. Because his job is the same as theirs. He's just the tripwire. He's just here to say when they're coming. You can see as soon as he calls it, they sprint back this way. They're just too far away for him to have impact on it. But if there wasn't any hard cover that Liquid didn't have visual on, they could have seen the trees, but he could have played on their side of the tree, right? It's a tricky angle. It's a tricky angle, I agree. The proning in the open, I don't think that was the play. So he gets flushed because of it. Petricot do get back. They do manage to come back and apply some pressure, but not enough for him to stay alive. So unfortunate situation where, again, the play was really, really smart in another situation. It was the right play to make in another situation. And then now we have this circle coming up. Liquid sitting in the center. The circle is still towards them. We know the dot is now going to be outside. Liquid knows they have a team on one side. They know they have a team on the other. And they know that at some point, they will have to leave the compound. Right now, the only thing that has to happen is that Tianba has to get inside the circle. They know that too. Tianba is outside the circle. They need to move in. Liquid, at some point, will have to get out of the compound. Because the circle is not going to end inside the compound. We know that now. It's going to end there. So what do? Petrichor? They're not in a hurry. Right now, every team wants to be the team to third party. Liquid hopes that Tianba and Petrichor starts fighting each other and that they can third party and win. Tianba hopes that Petrichor and Liquid fight each other and they can third party and win. What do you think Petrichor hopes for? Tianba and Liquid fight each other and they can third party and win. So how do you make this happen? How do you make this happen? You have to force the one team. Like if either you can be lucky and they just do it on their own. They just run into each other by themselves and you can run over in third party. But how can you help force this? Is by isolating angles. And that's what Liquid does. And I really liked what they did in this situation. I really loved what Liquid did here. But I even more so loved Petrichor's response to it. So what happens is that this circle comes to an end. Tianba did manage to find their way into the circle. Liquid is still looking for vision in any direction. But the guys are playing down, like you have the hills here, right? It's downhill here. So Liquid can't really get eyes on, alongside with there being trees and stuff, of course, and a billion smokes being thrown. So they can't really see what's going on. So Liquid have the compound, but they don't have the angles. Now, circle is on the dot. There's still 9 players left alive. And Liquid goes, okay, what do we do here? What do we do? How do we win this one? I'm not sure if Liquid had the exact count. I mean, they're a really smart team, so they probably did. I'm not sure if they knew that it was a 2-3-4 or if they thought it was a 3-2-4. They probably knew it wasn't a 4-4-1 in terms of player count. I think they knew. I mean, they must have known that there wasn't any team with 4 alive because Petrichor lost Mamu not too long ago, so they would know that. And they were part of the whole engagement with Tianba and rewind. And ends earlier, right? No, that was seen. Either way, they were part of that whole shenanigan earlier where Tianba lost players. So I think they know for a fact that they shouldn't have 4 up. But whether they know that it's 3 here and 2 here, or 2 here and 3 here. Wait. 3 here and 2 here. Can't talk anymore. Whether they know which of the 2 teams has 3 alive and the other team has 2 alive, I'm not sure. Either way, they make the right decision. So they try and find angles early. They then realize, great, that's not gonna happen. They're not gonna give us one for free. We have to go out and do something actively here. So what they do now is that they keep Mixie inside. He still has the 15x. They saw the knock exactly. They knew that there was players there. Exactly. They knew that there was players there. And what they do now is, as I said before, isolate angles. They say, great, we have to deal with the weaker team. At least, I mean, this is all me thinking I know what Liquid does. I would love if any Liquid player or 17 came into the chat now and said, Toby, I like your thinking, but that's not actually what happened. Because that's the way I learn. That's the way I think we all learn. When we try and imagine what teams think and what they do, and then either they agree or they say that's not what happened, and then they tell us what did happen, and then we learn from that. But my thought on what Liquid tried to do and what they did is that they know that this is the weaker of the 2 teams. They're right. They know there's only 2 players on the side down here. There's 3 over here. So what they do is they smoke off Petrichor. They smoke off Petrichor. Not like that. Probably more like this. Something along the lines of that. Not as much, but they smoke them off either way. They make the run down. And then as they've smoken off this line here, they say, let's force this into 2 separate fights. We deal with them now, and then we wrap back and take the fight to Petrichor after. That's a good idea. If you can execute this kill fast enough, while the smoke wall is still there, you can then wrap back and take a 4v3 fight afterwards. Pretty smart idea. The only thing is you don't want to lose any players on the engagement down here. They wrap back. They go all the way on the edge. They have their smoke wall. Mexi's in the meantime looking over here, trying to make sure they're safe. They set up their smoke wall. Oh, we can draw it up like this. They set up their smoke wall here. They deal with Chiamba. They isolate them in the side. Deal with Chiamba. Boom. There you go. Now it's a 4v3. Smart play. Now this smoke wall is still here. The smokes are still here, right? Because they last for quite a while. And what does Petrichor do? They use Liquid smoke wall. You can see Ixleft and Long, they both move down this way. They use Liquid smoke wall against them. So Liquid set up this wall to isolate Tianba. And Petrichor used this wall to go down and get the angle on them. They go down and they hold this angle. So as soon as Liquid come out, like this smoke essentially becomes a compound number 2 wall that Liquid has to go around. And once they go around it, Petrichor already has the angles. So they come down, they get the angle on one. Okay, so it's a little further over than where I drew it before, but you know what I mean. Ike's left sits on the wall, finds the first one, finds the second one as well. Long comes over the top, finds the third one instantly after. And all of a sudden, it's a 2v1 against Clip. Ends up being a 1v1, Ike's left wins it in a 1v3. I mean, it's not really 1v3, but he gets 3 kills on towards them by going up and using Liquid smoke wall against himself. I think it was, as I said, extremely well played by Liquid to go out, isolate, kill them, then wrap back and be ready to take the fight. But the Petrichor response to what Liquid did was equally impressive, if not even better. And that was very impressive. Like that play from Petrichor impressed me a lot. Really impressive to see what they did there. Well, that was game number 8. Let's hop on over to game number 9 as we come to the closing ends of this week of games. How do teams keep track of the kill feed? But just memory or someone tasked with keeping track? I think that's very much individual from team to team. Some maybe have one guy that goes. I don't think anyone actively has like an Excel document where they keep like draw one line like or with a pen next to the mouse. Okay, this team, click, one line, one player gone. I don't think anyone actually does that. But I guess some teams they have one guy who's tasked like your main job is like we will focus more on the rotations and on some of the other things. Your main job right now is to be the one that keeps track of the kill feed. Whether that's the case or if it's just everyone doing it together, I think it's very much individual from team to team. So I don't actually have an answer on that. I know that some teams do both. Like some teams have that one person that's most often or that's often times keeping track of it, and other teams have it the other way. But I don't think there's one answer to what all the teams do. Let's see, plane towards the west. East is somewhat open. Circle. Arguably as east as we could go with this, right? I mean, if you look at how the plane path has to be inside the circle, it's we're getting on the edge here. So there's plenty of space out towards the east of this one. All the teams hopping down towards the west. Afrika Freaks normally loot mill to power. Of course, they can't really get down there now. So that won't be an option. Gen G driving over towards Milta. They still cast and they'll get themselves looted on up. Should be pretty straightforward. Senya, I'm not sure exactly why. Never mind, actually I am. He lands up here. He has a hot spawn US. Makes perfect sense. Multi-circle gaming, they want a piece of it. They want a piece of it early on. They come up here. They take the fight to multi-circle, to Navi. Remember that multi-circle gaming are currently in first place at this point in the tournament, right? So currently sitting first place. They come up here to try and take the fight. Wait a minute. Oh no, never mind. It's true. They come up here to try and take a fight to Navi. In the meantime, everyone else try to rotate forward. Right now, the only thing that's really not worrying, but the only thing that teams really have to worry about is we have the lake, the Snake Lake, going through here. And that's the only thing. The circle could shift towards the northwest where you'd have to keep the water in mind. Other than that, you can wrap around, right? So not really too much, not too much going on in this first circle. It's pretty straightforward. Even though the water is could become a factor, for now it's pretty straightforward. You can see how Sonic's they maintain control on both sides so that if they have to cross, they have a place to go. If they have to cross, they have a place to go. T1 at the same time are doing similar things where they do push all across from Rostock, but they're close enough to the water that should it go back somehow this way, they will have a safe rotation path back in the other direction. A lot of teams are, I guess you can say, gambling on the circle going down here. If we do the math on this one, keep in mind the circle did go much more east than the plane was. So if we kind of crop it or cut it half, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a half. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We lost one team already. Navi's dead. 7 and a half. It's pretty much completely evenly split in terms of how many teams are on the north side and the south side of the water. Circle goes towards the west. Hard shift west. Tianba, you have all the space in the world. What do you want? Everything is yours. That's not really true, but they have some options either way in this circle. And the thing is, when you look at this, I've talked about this before, and I would love to hear other people's thought on it. But my thought is this: if we use the road as a cutoff, right? We can just cut off like this. If we use this road and we only talk about what's up here, north of the water, because at this point we're not going to be shifting down here. If we look at this from this over here is 1, this over here is 2. 1, 2. What are the main differences in these two areas? Chat, enlighten me. If we call this 1 and we call this area 2, you can kind of see how the road is what's splitting it, right? What are the main differences in these two? I have one thing, and I hope that you agree with me. One immediate thing that comes to my mind when I see this, like the difference between these two areas of the map. Less playable in one. Area 1 is open field of death. While you're saying it differently, we're saying the same thing. In area 2, it's much easier to play on foot. This whole hillside, I'll just remove it again. This whole area is playable on foot. Some of the areas are pretty open, but overall it's playable. Not necessarily easy, but it's playable. If you start running around in these fields, anywhere here, while there are still people in the compounds and whatnot, if you start sprinting around on foot, you're most likely going to die. So, in terms of priority right now, even though the circle could still hard shift back here, in terms of priority right now, you want to get something on the east side, because you can always drive west, drop your vehicles, and play on foot. You don't desperately need a vehicle over here. You don't desperately need a compound. You can play on foot, as I said. You can full speed send it across, jump out of your car, and then spread out and play on foot. Whereas if you now commit to sitting on the west side, and the circle goes back east, you're pretty much forced to crash a compound. Or shack, for that sake. You crash into shacks, crash a compound. There are very few areas where you can go, oh, let me just play this hill, and then I'll start running around in the open. The same way that you can do if you come up into the forest and you play around on foot, you know? So, I think that any team with a chance to, of course, will prioritize getting a spot here with the chance that the circle could shift over here, rather than sitting over here with the chance that the circle could go over here. Let's see if that's going to be the case. If we use the road as a parameter, how many teams are going to be on the east side and how many teams are going to be on the west side of the road by the time the circle is closed in? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I guess 9. They don't really count. They're outside. 8 teams on one side. 1, 2, 3. Or 1, 2, 3. 4 teams on the other. And no one's playing up here yet, even. That does kind of prove my point, right? Teams would much rather try and lock something down over here to then have to wrap west than try and take something over here early to then have to go back up in this direction. Because they know that if everything goes sideways, you can always just play on foot. Or try to anyway. I'm not going to say you can always, as in free rotation. But you can always make a go for it. And try and make something happen up there. DA, they crash down towards in the open here. Or play down towards the open. Hope that they can sit tight for a while. Because, again, they know that they came in late. They tried to, at first, go down towards this position. And this is something where DA actually makes a really, really smart adaptive play from this coming into the next one. Ends are sitting at 2-1-1 split. 2-1-1. Split right now. DA, they want this. They come down. They drive straight through, like a little bit of an intersection crash here with Multi-Circle Gaming. But nothing really happens with that. But they want this, and instantly, of course, Diggory and Tixu comes out to try and shoot and force them away. Code Margo pulls up on this. I think there's got to be some sort of miscommunication. Because Code Margo pulls up, but the remaining DA players keep on driving. So Code Margo makes the pull up. Everyone else keeps driving. Goes, bye-bye, Margo. Bye-bye. And he goes down. Then they go over. Then they turn around. They realize there's people here. There's people here. What can we play? Let's sit down here. We'll play the shack. We'll save the vehicles. We'll have Murd up on the rug. And why do they have Murd up on the rug? For the same exact reason that what we talked about before about the other compounds. About the compound down here with Liquid. About the compound up here with Tianba. If any other team comes up on this hillside and gains control, you cannot do anything from inside that shack. As long as you have control of the little hill above, you can play behind the shack. You can try and take some control, peek out on different sides. But if you lose this, you can do nothing here other than just sit and wait. So they keep Murd on top because they know this is one of the dangerous positions against this compound. Smart play from DA. All the other teams wrapping up. All right, let's fast forward. New circle pops. Here comes T1. And this was terrifying to me because I was looking at this. And you can see Tixu and Diggory. I even said it during the broadcast, I believe. I was convinced that T1 were full speed sending it into the warehouse. They come driving forward. D8 don't shoot all that much. They do manage to get one. Adder goes down on the shack. And then they split shacks instead. And I thought, and Tixu, if you're here, I hope you're here, Tixu. And Centix for that sake. He was here earlier as well. I thought ENS was too slow on grouping up. Because had T1 committed to pulling up on the shack, you can see by the time ENS starts rotating, they're already all the way up here. So had they full on committed, like had they all just driven up towards the warehouse, they would have been up there fighting at least 10-15 seconds, or at least 10 seconds maybe, before Diggory and Tixu could have gotten up there. I thought as soon as they heard those vehicles drive this way, instead of going out and shooting at them, they were just going to group up together. Yeah, room, exactly. They do manage to get up there. Fortunately for them, T1 opts to maintain their split. But yeah, I thought they were just I thought they were too slow on it. For it in the end, nothing happened, so it was all fine. But I was just surprised to see them not just I thought it was one of those calls where as soon as anyone comes this way, you just send it up in case we get attacked. Rather safe than sorry, you know? Can I explain why a team makes split like ENS does here? Of course, it's much control, but it's worth risk. He didn't want to group, but because they went into the shack, we only had one car left, so we had to make... Okay. You didn't want to group. You wanted to maintain the 2-2 split in this phase as well? Damn, ends up being ballsy. You wanted to maintain this 2-2 split? Really? Huh. That is ballsy. Looking at this, with 51 alive, I would be like, there's a 99% guarantee that one of these two spots gets pulled up on. Damn. I like it, Tixu. I just didn't expect it. Take my votes. I like it, Tixu. Okay, then it makes sense. Then it makes sense. You weren't really in a rush to go to cars because you weren't planning on rotating. That makes sense then. I thought it was a dead giveaway. Like, I thought it was guaranteed that you were going to rotate up as soon as you heard the vehicles come in. Exactly. That's what we're coming to. We're coming to the last game. If we had your card, you could probably stay 2-2. Yeah, maybe. I was just thinking that there was, like, guaranteed that one of these two would be pulled up on. Which happened right after you left, obviously. Meta instantly pulls down here. Okay. Okay, I like it. I like it. Very greedy. Ents being greedy in the center of the circle, huh? Okay. I like it. I like it. Now, let's see. So, this happens. T1, fortunate defense, not opting to crash all the way up towards the compound. Ents get back together. And they maintain their split, even though they do lose one. Liquid, in the meantime, they come in from the north. They manage to wrap all the way over Severny, all the way to the top, and kind of, not surround, but wrap all the way around Day Trade, not really having to worry about them. There's a few compounds or buildings up here. Circle, back down to the south we go, forcing everyone even more into the open than they already were. So infantry, rotating out, and this is just, again, take what you're given. Infantry, we're in a two-way split. They go back together. A freak of freaks see that instantly, they go down and take it away from them. And while they might not be that good inside the circle in this position, they can still scout their way forward. Oath have to play in the open. Mamu pulls off a hero play, tries to 1v everyone. Oath doesn't work, but he does manage to get 2 knocks. In the meantime, Sonics try to do some damage towards them. They pull over the top, try and take them down. And third party becomes fourth party with a freak of freaks trying to wrap over and do some damage towards them as well. I like how a freak of freaks played this one. Really well played. They split out. They try and take control. They're trying to force the fight between Oath and Sonics. And now, as it all escalates, they push further forward to try and take control of that as well. They come up. They maintain control. They don't over-aggress. They just maintain control, hold them out, try and wrap back in the circle together. And now, because all the chaos unfolding on the south side, Mert goes, you know what? I think I've overstayed my welcome. Let's just go back and play the shack now. There's not a whole lot we can do. New circles popped. For all the teams that are coming in from the south, this is really the only place they can play. Let's just give it to them. We'll sit in the shack. Alternatively, they would be sitting 3 players up here, but that'd just be suicidal. So they go down, they play the shack, they give it to a freak of freaks, and they say, fair enough, not a whole lot we can do about it. In the meantime, as they come rotating underneath, and infantry, of course, both see and hear that. I was surprised to see infantry not going for that spot earlier. But infantry give it up. I like what infantry did here, and I said it during the cast as well, that even though it doesn't end up working out for them, it's a situation where when you're infantry here and you look at what you have available, there's nothing. Like, you can sit here and scout all day. There's nothing available in this circle for you. Absolutely nothing available. So what do they do when they don't really have anything to do? They try and make a play, right? They see Minx rotate down. They realize there's one caught off guard running towards a vehicle. And they go, let's just isolate that player. Boliang does get taken down in the middle of the rotation. They force the runner out, goes down into the blue. And they can now sit here. In the meantime, Day Trade, of course, they hear this going on. They want to go down and sweep their side. They want to go down and clear this. To then maybe be able to push up towards ends later on in the game. New circle pops in the meantime. Okay, now we don't have to push up to ends later on in the game because we can just play down here. So they want to go down and take them out. But while doing this, they completely forget about the fact that there are still players alive on the other side of the circle. So they go sneaky peeky, sneaky peeky, sneaky peeky all the way down. And while Nates and stuff are damaging them, they end up getting taken down from afar. One falls down to ends, one falls down to freak of freaks, and infantry stay alive. So, smart play by infantry. Again, didn't really work out the way they wanted it to. But smart play by them to try and go over here. They know that in this position, they're somewhat isolated. And if a team pushes down from above, they have the tripwire. The tripwire being the other teams being able to see them. So it works out for them. They come down. They manage to take some sort of control. And now the only teams to have to rotate is Meta, T1, Petrichor, and Ents. Meta goes, well, we can't do a whole lot. Let's just rotate into the center of the circle, see what's happening. Take-Two tries to wrap around, claim control. After seeing infantry die, I think he realizes that this should be somewhat clear. But still, play it safe, play it on the edge. Give yourself and your team an anchor point to go to that's inside the circle. And that's exactly what happens. They come around. They get a spot. And now, again, we see a situation where, great. So we have to cross the road. because there's nothing you can play here. There's one rock that Silson is proning on, and there's a tree there. That really is everything in the circle that you can play. Alternatively, you have a little bit of a ridge down here. So, like this down here, this plateau that Hansia is sitting on, there's a bit of a downhill. Something like this. It's not completely like that, but something like that. And if you can sit down, like if you can make sure that all of this is clear, and you can sit down here, then these guys can't see you. That's a play. That's something you can do. So ends go 3, 2, 1. Full speed across. They lose 1, but still they make it across. They now have the position down here. Something like that. Again, can't draw it up perfectly, but something along the lines of this. They can sit behind the vehicles down here. And as long as they can outlive this, they should be fine. And this is where I thought a Freak of Freaks made an oopsie. Spoiler alert, they would still go out and win the game. But Hansia is up here. At this point, you have 3 players playing the shack. Your most important task right now, Hansia, is to make sure that your spot is not being taken. We talked about it before. The big threat to this position is that another team comes up and takes control of the plateau, right? And I hope that he knew that that was his job. But what Hansia does is he starts looking for these guys. All of the teammates, one of them sitting inside and the other guys sitting on the outside, are shooting in this direction. That's fine. 3 guys trying to force or trying to kill T1's last 2 players before they get inside. Because who knows? I mean, if all 3 of T1 gets behind this one tree and they have some smokes where they can start running, you never know what's going to happen. You never know where the next circle is going to go. So 3 people being dedicated to looking in this direction makes perfect sense. The only thing is, Ends just rotated over here with the vehicle. Hansia must have heard that. Hansia must have heard that. So I don't understand how Diggory was allowed to push over this hill, because right now Hansia's only job should be looking in this direction. But he's looking in this direction. And what ends up happening as he's looking up towards Danche, maybe he thought he could just quickly go over and help hold that angle a little bit. While he is looking in this direction, Diggory comes over the job and shoots him. And I'm like, you had one job, Hansia. One job. Make sure that no one came over that hill. And he doesn't succeed. Tixu goes down, and that's again an oops, not an oopsie. That's just really unfortunate. Tixu goes down. Diggory thought he had the angle on the rest. The way the US was parked allowed for them to shoot underneath, and Diggory goes down. I think had they gotten the rest there and been allowed to push up here, that could have been a win for Ends. Not easily, but they could have been a win for Ends had they been allowed to push up here and then down towards the shack. Could also have been a T1 win if they were allowed to push in. It could have been a Selson win. Who knows? But either way, Ends up going down. Tough one for them. And then I like what T1 tried to do. They're outside the circle. They have a tree. And they're like, you know what? We need a kill here. We need to somehow get a knock on an Afrika player. So what they did was that they had Danche crouched to peek, and they had Starlord standing. They had a tree, none of them had helmets, and they go 3, 2, 1, peek. And as soon as they peek, they got headshotted. Just not a lot to do. They end up going down. Silson ends up getting shot instantly, and Afrika Freaks wins the game. Smart game from Afrika. Smart rotations come through the mid game to the end game. They played it late up on the hillside. They saw infantry push back together, went over, took what they could. They saw DA wrap down, came over, took what they could. They were never in a hurry. They just instantly rotated and took what they could. And they win the game because of it. Smart rotations from Afrika Freaks. And a good game for them overall. Not super aggressive, not crazy, but as soon as they saw something open, they jumped on it instantly and they claimed the spots. So wisely played by Afrika Freaks. Now 1 game left to go. Let me just center this up. All right, there we go-ish. Game number 10. The final game to determine who would go out and win the week 4, weekly finals. Let's see. North side plane, aka no military circles. If N stays up a minute longer, T1 third party to Afrika Freaks. Yeah, there were many things that could have happened there. Many things could have happened. But we saw how it unfolded. The game almost started with infantry losing 3 players. Because, I mean, I think it's Adder being greedy here, but Adder goes for a vehicle with all of the infantry players, and then we see a wild cowboy chase, and nothing more happens than T1 losing Adder. But it could easily have been Adder getting into the car and infantry losing 3 players. That would have been terrifying. But that didn't happen. So up towards the north we go. Final game at this point in the tournament, or at least, I guess you should say at this point in the weekly finals, because the tournament is still far from over. Certain teams have realized that pretty much no matter how well they play, they're not going to end up in the top 4. One of those teams were ENCE, despite having a good game last game. One of those teams were ENCE. I think, now I can't remember it correctly, but I'm pretty convinced that the math coming into the last game was that in order for ENCE to get into top 4, they needed like a 28 kill win. And while I never like to say anything is impossible, I would say that it is highly unlikely. And I think ENCE knew that as well. At the same time, Liquid had a situation where if they wanted to win, they needed, I think, 21 kills and a chicken dinner. And again, I don't like to say anything is impossible, but we have seen a 19 kill win. We have seen a 19 kill second place. This week we saw a 17 kill second place. Only one thing is for sure. If you want to have any chance of getting that many kills in a game, you got to start early. And you got to keep on chasing those kills. And credit to both ENCE and Liquid, that's what they did. So let's see how that final game went down. For teams not really having anything to lose, but something to gain if they could pull off the biggest kill win in PUBG esports history. ENCE sit up towards the north, and what happened here? DA looted what they normally do. What happened last game? Last game, DA looted, went up to the hills, went down to take the junkyard, realized it was taken by ENCE, and they had to leave. Now, very similar circle, a little further towards the northwest. DA knows ENCE like to split like this. Even like this. They knew that from the very last game. They say we gotta go early. We're only 3 minutes in. DA already leaving. 3 minutes in, DA say we gotta take control. They go down, they take control, they wanted to split it. Unfortunately for them, ENCE beat them to it. They beat into the rotation by ENCE, but they managed to take control here. Smart play by DA. The only issue is, for a team that is in the first circle this early, sitting 4 together like this instead of splitting and having some more control, that's a little unfortunate. So DA probably would have wanted to split out a little wider and grab some more control, but in the position that they were in now, trying to take this, having to go back, they just lost too much time and they can't really do it. So they rotated early, and now they find themselves inside this compound. Zenith as well, sitting in, I believe, 4th place coming into the final game. 3rd place? 4th place? I don't remember. 28 kill win on Miramar. True. Rotating early equals worse loot. Exactly. Zenith knew they had a chance to win as well. They also played passive on the edge, but that's not too uncommon for Zenith. They'll go out and do that. So far, everything is going pretty ordinarily. Na'Vi, I like the split they've got going. Again, not really doing anything in terms of trying to chase kills down, but smart split they have set up. Infantry, rotating in super late. Again, very infantry-esque to do. Day trade, rotating in even slower. Also very day trade-esque to do. New circle pumps. Up towards the north we go. Zenith, that's a hard shift towards you. Hopefully for you, you can get something going in this final game. Everyone starts sending it, and this is where chaos happens. ENCE sitting in their split. They're maintaining it. And T1 tries to go over the hill. Oath goes up the hill. Everyone goes towards Stalbert because they know all these compounds down here are taken by now. Liquid, in the meantime, try to rotate, and that's where their killing fiesta started. Because look at this. Infantry are split. They drive past here. EB realizes there's people here showering and goes, oh, here's a team that has nothing to lose. Let's get the hell out of here. And how funny is it to see infantry out being the ones being chased, you know? All of Liquid, they're just on a hunt. They're on a hunt for infantry players. And the infantry goes, no, we're sorry. We didn't mean to bridge camp. Sorry. Please go away. We're trying to win. And Mexi takes down 2 of them. So unfortunate. Sometimes the bullies get bullied. I like to see it. Liquid, they were on the hunt. They get 2 of them. They continue their rotation forward. In the meantime, a Freak of Freaks Petrichor posting a fight in the middle of everything. Day Trade comes in from the south. They want to get a piece of the action. New circle pops now, and we hop up towards the north. How up towards the north, and this forest again, very, very playable on foot. The only thing is we have this little line of defense that makes it incredibly difficult to rotate this direction. So you have to wrap all the way out towards the water, wrap all the way out Stalber in order to really get down here and have anything to play from. And one team that does manage to sneak their way through, DA. Up on the other side they go, find themselves a place to lay low and wait it out. Because right now, if you cut the circle in half-ish, that's kind of half, right? I can't draw straight lines. That's half. We have 3 teams on the north and 11 teams on the south side of the circle. So clearly, the commotion is down here to much more of an extent than up here. And DA weren't really in position coming into this game. DA didn't really need kills. Of course, I mean, by the end of the game, maybe they would. But it's not like they, like Liquid, needed a 20-kill win. They maybe needed... I mean, theoretically, the kill points or the placement points alone could be enough because they were only like 6 or 7 points away from first place. So if the teams ahead of them just died early enough, there was a chance they could win only off of the placement points. So why not? Why not just back off, play your time, wait it out, let all these other teams fight, hope that the 2 teams that you're currently fighting for a top spot, being Zenith, Multi-Circle Gaming, and Infantry, would die early. Wait it out, let things unfold, and then coming into the later parts of the game, you can then start engaging in the fights yourself. They just sit up here, they wait out, they move even further out to the edge, knowing that there's no one up here. They just play it, they just fall back. Now the circle goes up towards the shoreline. They see Sonics players come that direction, they back off. Again, DA not interested in fighting at all. They know that there are quite a few teams at this point in the tournament that are just out here to try and chase kills. They know there are quite a few teams right now that don't have anything to lose, that are just going for kills, that just want to have fun. And those teams can be pretty scary to go up against. So DA, they back off again. In the meantime, down here, chaos is about to unfold. All these teams are going to now try and make their way into the circle. Ends playing the edge, perfect contained position from them. They're just sitting here saying, no one, I mean, the compound is out already. We saw them leave this way. No one makes it through here. We're just going to sit up. We're going to play it. We're going to hold this angle. Diggory Hells, I believe, in MK14. We're just going to make sure that no one can make their way through this here. And that's exactly what they do. They push up, they play control, they prevent anyone from making their way in their direction. No one's going to get to wrap around. If they want to do anything, they push into us or they push into the circle. They push up, they hold Squeaky below, they take down 3, they force the fight even further. Liquid, in the meantime, loses players T1 and Zenith, forced to take fights. They now have to back off. Oath, in the meantime, try to make the force fight down towards DA, who for now, again, still able to hold themselves pretty safe up towards the north. They just prone it out, no reason to fight. Again, and all of a sudden, just in phase 5, we're down to, what, 15 players. Everybody died so early in the game that over half the server died in the first couple of circles. Now there's plenty of space for these teams to maneuver around, and this is where it gets interesting. Ends, still 3 players alive. We have Oath kind of on a 3-way split. Pearls on a string types thing going here through the middle. Zenith has to leave the compound, and we have Mexi, the solo player with 7 kills, I believe, at this point, trying to do damage on his own. Because, again, nothing to lose. So Oath lose 1 to DA. Mexi tries to grab underneath. He does get seen, so he tries to play it safe. Right now, this is the hilltop. This right here is the hilltop. Everything else is downhill, with some plateaus below, but still. Where DA is right now the top of the hill. DA, they send 2 people down. Oath ends up going down. I was surprised to see Relo try and push out this way. Did he gift free kills to the other NA teams? I don't think that was the case. But I was surprised to see him try and wrap out on the edge of the circle rather than just chill in the middle. That was kind of confusing. Because he was just in the very center of the circle. It just seems kind of weird, right? That he's proning in the center of the circle and then runs outside the circle to die to Zenith. I'm just kidding. I know. Either he wanted in some action. I know. I'm just kidding. He wanted in on the action on the outside, and he got a knock. Mexi got a knock on the first guy. He thought that there was going to be more kills, but Punish, honestly, Punish played it smart. He was anticipating, I think he probably was expecting it to be ends, but he was anticipating people to be wrapping around that side of the hill, because they already had Roth looking up the hill, and they already had Roth looking up the hill, and Punish's job was, of course, to make sure that this angle was safe while Kickstart got the rest. So he's sitting tight, allows him around the side. He hears it. Roth comes down, helps out. They get a 2v1. They take him down. And now, while all this has happened, DA has had the chance to take the high ground. They do that. And ends up kind of forced on the edge of the circle. So now we're in a situation where... Now we're in a situation where DA has the high ground. They have shit utility. They have shit weapons. I believe one of them had an M16. And they just have to hold off. Ence, Diggory is still here. He has an MK14. He could easily become a pain in the butt for anyone here. Zenith are playing below the hill. This right here is a downhill in this direction. They're all just sitting down here. One nade from DA would have killed like 3 Zenith players, but they didn't have any utility. And the little utility that they did have, they wanted to save until later. This also is like downhill. Diggory is up on his own, trying to see what type of damage he can do. And they know, like, DA knows they're 4 alive. There's 9 total, aka there's got to be more than one team. Zenith knows they're 4 alive. There's 9 total. There's got to be more than one team. And both these teams are currently sitting in 1st and 3rd place respectively. But the placement points alone would be enough, I believe, for DA to get sick. Did DA get 2nd or 3rd? How can you remember? They did get 2nd. They did get 2nd. So right now, both these two teams are in a situation where the team that wins this fight wins $300,000. Pressure much? I think so. They're just waiting. They're waiting to find out. Like, again, they haven't seen neither of these two. No, I mean, they probably know that it's Ence who is the final one, right? So they're all just waiting for that last player to die, or hoping that the last player, like DA, is like, please, please, Diggory, just go down and shoot a Zenith player. We beg you, we beg you. And then when you've shot at the Zenith player, please come up to us so that we can shoot you, so that we can get the points, so that we can beat Zenith. And of course, Zenith hopes that Diggory does something up here and shoots all of them so they can push up and kill them. Everyone just sitting and praying that whoever is that last solo player, please damage the other team. Diggory is chilling as best as he can with his MK. Prones down, moves slowly forward. Final circle closes in. Again, DA still have the high ground. They have the position. They just don't have the utility. Remember, they rotated so early. They rotated so early out of Rozhok. Rozhok doesn't really give you that quick loot. They rotated incredibly early. They played it really well, given where they were on the leaderboard. And now it's a 4v4 for the very end of it. And you know, I think we'll end this video, this part of the stream, by watching the very end of it. Because it was a pretty fucking hectic ending. Let's watch the end of this together. I hope my video doesn't get flagged now for showing you this. I'm casting myself, so I think it's alright that I watch it. So, Ence has just been eliminated. They push us 3 over the top. Smash instantly finds the first one. Instantly takes down 1 without taking any damage.
You could not ask for a better start to the engagement than that. The only thing is, Smash is the only one, if we go back just a second, it's hard to go back just a second in a video. I'm gonna mute the audio because I don't want to listen to myself. As you can see here, Smash is the only one playing the top. He's the only one playing the hill in this position. The rest of this is smoked off. Zenith has tried to isolate this angle to push. Oh my god, I wish I could do an analysis like this more often. But this is a gamble on my side. I don't know if my video is gonna get removed for using content that technically isn't mine. But Smash is the only one being able to hold it buff. Zenith plays this so well. They push 3 over. They have the gear. They have the Groza. They say, let's take the fight at a narrow angle on the top. Had DA had just one more player sitting up here holding this with him, that could easily have been a DA win. But look at this. They're all expecting them to push below. They gambled. They said, where is Zenith going to play this from? Once they got the kill on Diggory, they debated them. DA thinks they're playing it below. DA thinks that Zenith is swooping underneath. And why would DA think so? Because the dot is below. The dot is down the hill. DA thinks that Zenith does this to sit and contain below. That's why DA goes in and tries to play above. But in fact, Zenith are wrapping over the top. It's a super smart play by Zenith. Incredibly smart play by Zenith. So one goes over the top, but the response is there immediately. Smash spots 1, spots 2, gets a damage on towards him as well. Down to low HP he goes, tries to back off. Punich finds him in return. Now DA knows, fuck, they're over the hilltop. What do we do about it? Punich tries to back off, and now Roth, the surprise player, tries to come up and do damage. That right there. Code Marco, if you're watching this. That right there, I think, when I saw it as well, could have been what lost them that fight. Code Marco had the angle. Code Marco had the spray. That should have been Roth gone down, and that would have been a 3v2 in favor of DA. Watch this. Roth comes over. It's a really tricky angle. He spots him. He's already shooting at him. He just headshot him. 78 damage from Code Marco. And look at how many more bullets come in that don't connect. It's always tricky when you watch the replay. It's always tricky when you watch the replay, but he insta-headshots him. He insta-headshots him and can't connect more bullets on that one. That is tough. Around the side he goes. Mithralius. And then now they just get hungry, right? Now they want to get the kill. They chase him down. They find him. They know he's low HP. Code Marco is probably saying, I headshot him. He's low. Let's get the flush on him. And now everyone gets to reset. They go for the rest. I thought it was risky at first, but they go for the rest. They commit to it. They know they need the numbers. Since they don't have the helmets or the utility, they need the numbers of players alive. And now they try to hold it. Now they try to hold it from below. Punich is holding the angle while the rest is coming in. Again, don't aggress. Just let the rest come in. Had Kickstart gone down to this nade, that could have been game-changing too. But he gets the heal up. Mithralius holds the angle. Spots 1. Doesn't get attack. But look at this. Level 1 vests against level 3 gear and Grozas, right? It's not easy. It's not easy for DA. Level 3 helmet and a barrel against the level 1 vest and a Scar L. I mean, Groza against Scar L close quarter. I wonder who is gonna win that. Oh. Let's see. They end up going down. Nades come through. Up over the top. They get to isolate them. Code Marco tries to go for a first aid while Mithralius is peeking. Again, miscommunication. Kickstart finds one. Again, you mean level 1 vest against the Grow, so you're not going to win that. Shinboy gets him with the nade over the top. Last one comes through on the side. GG. DA's only chance of winning that game, and it's so rude to say, but DA's like, because they were outnumbered, they were outgunned. DA had a Scar L level 1 gear against the Groza level 3 gear. You're not gonna win that. When you have two players that are not necessarily equally good, but both extremely good, you're not gonna win that fight. That's at this level of play, that's just how it is. So when Code Marco doesn't take down Roth, making it a 4v2, that was game over. At least in my opinion. When Marco doesn't find the knock on Roth, making it a 3 or like 4 or 3v2, that's GG. It was a nice try. DA played this game incredibly well, but that's GG. So in this situation, DA didn't throw it by any means. But when you then look at the overall leaderboards and you say, okay, we lost by 10 points. And I said it during the cast too. That's when. That's when. That's when this one hurts. The final game, sure, Marco should have hit the shot. Doesn't happen. Feels bad, man. Not a lot you can do about it. You were outgunned. You were outnumbered in that final game, DA. That wasn't your game to win. You were completely out-utilitied, if that's a word. But this one, that hurts. For anyone watching on YouTube, that's going to be the end of week 4 finals. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you all for week 5.